The penthouse ballroom of the Lumiere Hotel glittered like a kingdom built from glass and greed. Seoul's elite packed the space. Billionaires in custom suits, heiresses dripping in diamonds, models whose faces sold dreams to millions. And at the center of it all, untouchable as a god carved from ice, stood Tony Choi, 33 years old, CEO of Choi Empire, Korea's most ruthless conglomerate. Net worth that made governments nervous. Face so devastatingly handsome it had launched 1,000 tabloid covers. Eyes cold enough to freeze blood. 6 women surrounded him, literally circled him like predators who'd mistaken him for prey. A Japanese heiress traced her manicured nails down his arm. Tony-san, I've been thinking about our Tokyo merger. And other things. A French model leaned close, breasts pressed against his shoulder. Sherry, come to Paris with me. I'll show you things you've never experienced. A Korean actress, daughter of a media mogul, positioned herself directly in front of him. Appa, you promised me the first dance tonight. Tony's expression didn't change. Bored, empty, dead inside. He nodded once, acknowledging nothing, caring about less. Then she walked in. Cora Bennett, 27. Dark skin that caught the chandelier light like polished mahogany. Natural hair in thick goddess locks that cascaded down her back. Uniform simple, black pants, white button-down, small name tag. She wasn't a guest. She was a waitress, and she moved through the glittering crowd like a predator in sheep's clothing, carrying a tray of champagne flutes, offering drinks with professional politeness to people who didn't see her as human. But Cora saw everything. The microaggressions, the casual dismissals, the way these people treated staff like furniture. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from her editor. Getting good material? We need this story, Bennett. Choi Empire's labor violations are our ticket to the Pulitzer. Cora's jaw tightened. She was undercover. Had been for 3 weeks. Posing as a waitress to document how Choi Empire systematically underpaid, overworked, and abused their lowest-level employees. The story was almost done. She just needed one more thing. Access to Tony Choi himself. And speak of the devil. Tony's eyes locked onto her the instant she entered his line of sight. Everything else. The 6 women pawing at him, the billion-dollar deals being whispered around the room, the flash of cameras. All of it evaporated. His pulse kicked. Once. Hard. The Japanese heiress was still talking. Father is very interested in a partnership, and I told him. Move, Tony said flatly. She blinked, confused. What? Tony stepped past her without explanation, cutting through the crowd like a blade through silk. Cora saw him coming and internally groaned. Great. The Ice King himself. She approached a group of older businessmen. Champagne, gentlemen? They grabbed glasses without thanking her, without even looking at her face. One man's hand lingered too long near her wrist. You're new. Where are you from? Atlanta originally, sir. Cora replied smoothly, mentally adding, and if you touch me again, I'm documenting it for the exposé. America. The man leered. I like American girls. They're so friendly. Cora's jaw tightened, but her smile stayed fixed. Enjoy your evening, sir. And your receding hairline. She said the last part under her breath, but the man's face flushed crimson. Before he could respond, Tony Choi stepped directly into her path. Cora stopped, eyes lifting to his face. No recognition, no interest, just professional courtesy, and a hidden recording pen in her pocket capturing every word. Can I offer you champagne, sir? Her voice was smooth, American accent, controlled, utterly unbothered by his presence. Tony stared at her like he was seeing color for the first time after a lifetime of gray. Your name, he said, not a question. Command. Cora's expression remained perfectly neutral. Is there something specific you need, sir? A drink? Directions to the nearest personality. Tony blinked. Had she just... Excuse me? He said slowly. I asked if you needed anything, Cora repeated innocently. You're blocking the champagne route. The women behind Tony gasped. No one spoke to Tony Choi like that. Tony felt something crack inside his chest. Something that had been frozen for years suddenly thawing, burning, coming violently alive. I asked for your name, Tony repeated, voice dropping lower. Dangerous. Cora's eyes held his steadily. Cora, is there anything else, sir? She offered the tray again. The dismissal was polite but absolute. Tony felt like he'd been punched. Women melted when he looked at them, trembled when he spoke, fell over themselves for one word, one glance, one moment of his attention. This woman looked at him like he was a mild inconvenience. I'm Tony Choi, he said, testing. I'm aware, sir. Everyone here knows who you are. Her tone was patient, almost pitying. The champagne is getting warm. Before he could respond, a commotion erupted across the ballroom. The French model who'd been draped over Tony minutes ago shrieked. Wine splattered across her designer gown. You clumsy bitch! She screamed at another waitress, a young Korean girl who'd clearly stumbled. This dress costs more than you'll make in 10 years. The room went silent. All eyes turned. The young waitress bowed frantically, apologizing in rapid Korean, tears streaming down her face. The model raised her hand to slap her. Cora moved, fast, decisive, fearless. She stepped between them, catching the model's wrist mid-swing. That's enough, Cora said quietly. The entire ballroom gasped. The French model's eyes went wide with rage. How dare you touch me? Do you know who I am? Yeah, Cora replied calmly. You're the woman about to catch an assault charge on camera. She nodded toward the security cameras. Smile, you're on Seoul's funniest home videos. I'll have you fired. Get in line, Cora interrupted. I've been threatened by scarier people than you. Last week a Karen in Starbucks told me she'd call corporate. I'm still recovering. A few people in the crowd actually laughed. The model's face turned purple with humiliation. Tony stood frozen, watching this waitress, this nobody by society's standards, dismantle one of the most connected women in Asia with nothing but sarcasm and fearlessness. Watching her protect someone weaker without hesitation. Watching her risk everything for a stranger. And in that moment, something inside Tony Choi shifted irrevocably. The hotel manager rushed over, face pale with panic. Miss Bennett, please apologize to. No. Tony's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Everyone turned. He walked slowly toward Cora, eyes locked on hers. The French model brightened, assuming he was coming to her defense. Tony, darling, tell them. Leave, Tony said without looking at her. She blinked. What? Get out of my sight. Now. And if I ever hear you've mistreated service staff again, I'll make sure every hotel in Asia bans you. The model's face crumpled with humiliation, but she fled. The manager stammered. Mr. Choi, I'm so sorry for the disruption. The waitress did nothing wrong, Tony said, still watching Cora. Anyone who has a problem with how she handled that can take it up with me directly. Silence. Cora's eyes narrowed slightly, studying him. Suspicious. Interesting, she thought. The Ice King has a hero complex. That's definitely going in the article. I don't need you to defend me, she said quietly. Tony's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. I wasn't defending you. I was stating a fact. Then state it somewhere else. I have work to do. She turned her back on him, on Tony Choi, the man who could buy this hotel with pocket change, and walked away. The entire room stared in shock. And Tony felt his heart pound for the first time in a decade. Not with anger, with obsession. The rest of the night, Tony watched her. He pretended to network, pretended to listen to investment pitches, pretended to care about anything other than the woman moving through the crowd with quiet dignity and hidden purpose. Cora never looked at him again, but her recording pen captured everything. Snippets of conversation about underpaid workers, complaints about lazy staff, casual cruelty dressed up as business efficiency. Her editor was going to love this. By midnight, most guests had migrated to private lounges or hotel suites. Cora slipped into the service corridor, exhausted but satisfied. 3 weeks of undercover work was finally paying off. She pulled out her phone, texting her editor. Almost done. Have enough for the story. We'll finish this week. Burning the midnight oil? Cora spun around. Tony Choi stood in the corridor, jacket removed, tie loosened, looking unfairly handsome in the dim lighting. Cora's hand instinctively went to the pepper spray on her keychain. It's midnight. The event is over. What are you doing here? Waiting for you. Her eyes narrowed. That's concerning behavior, Mr. Choi. Tony. Mr. Choi, she repeated deliberately. I'm going home. Alone. Good night. She moved past him. Tony didn't touch her. Didn't block her path. Just spoke. Have dinner with me. Cora stopped, exhaling slowly. She turned to face him. No. The refusal was simple. Final. Devastating. Why not? Tony asked, genuinely confused for the first time in years. Cora tilted her head, studying him like he was a puzzle she had no interest in solving. Because every woman in that ballroom would kill to have dinner with you, and I'm not interested in being another conquest for a bored billionaire. You think that's what this is? I know what this is, Cora said quietly. You're used to women throwing themselves at you. I didn't, so now I'm a challenge. A game. Tony stepped closer. Not threatening. Just closer. You're wrong. Am I? She didn't back away. Then tell me, Mr. Choi, how many women have you dated? Slept with? Discarded? Tony's jaw tightened. That's different. It's not. Cora's voice softened slightly. Look, you seem like you're used to getting what you want, but I'm not for sale. Not for dinner. Not for anything. Find someone else to entertain you. She turned away. Tony caught her wrist. Gently, carefully, but firm enough to stop her. Cora's eyes dropped to his hand, then lifted to his face. Something dangerous flashed in her expression. Let go. Not a plea. A warning. Tony released her immediately, hands rising slightly. I apologize, he said, meaning it. That was wrong. Cora studied him for a long moment. Interesting, she thought again. He actually apologized. That's not what I expected. A small part of her, the part that wasn't a journalist on a mission, felt something flutter in her chest. She crushed it immediately. Mr. Choi, I work 2 jobs to send money home to my family. I'm saving for graduate school. I don't have time for games or egos or men who think the world revolves around them. Lies, her conscience whispered. You're actually an investigative journalist who makes decent money. But he doesn't need to know that. I don't think that, Tony said quietly. Don't you? She challenged. You approached me 3 times tonight. I said no each time. Yet here you are at midnight waiting for me. That's not respect. That's entitlement. The words hit like bullets. Because she was right. Tony stood there, pride shattered, ego demolished, and felt something he hadn't experienced in 15 years. Shame. You're right, he admitted. I'm sorry. Cora blinked, clearly not expecting that. I'll leave you alone, Tony continued. But for what it's worth, I wasn't lying when I said you're different. You are. And that terrifies me. He turned to leave. Don't do it, Cora's professional brain screamed. Let him go. Finish the story. Get out clean. But her mouth had other ideas. Wait. Tony stopped, hope flickering dangerously in his chest. Cora walked closer, close enough that he could smell her perfume. Something warm and subtle. This is for the story, she told herself. Get close to him. Get the real dirt. That's all this is. Why does it terrify you? She asked softly. Tony met her eyes. Because for the first time in my life, I want something I can't have. Silence stretched between them. Cora's expression shifted. Conflicted, curious, cautious, and guilty, her conscience added. Don't forget guilty. 1 coffee, she said finally. Tony's heart stopped. 1 coffee, he repeated. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., the cafe across from the hotel. And if you're late, I'm leaving. And I'm recording everything, she didn't add. I'll be early. Cora's lips curved into the smallest smile. We'll see. She walked away, and Tony stood alone in the parking garage, heart pounding, completely and utterly hooked. Cora sat in her car for 5 minutes, forehead pressed against the steering wheel. Her phone buzzed. Editor. Status update? Cora typed back. Making progress. He's interested. Going to get closer, get the inside story. Editor. Perfect. We need quotes. Personal stuff. Make him trust you. Cora stared at the text, stomach churning. This was her job. This was what investigative journalists did. Go undercover. Gain trust. Expose truth. So why did she feel like she was about to do something unforgivable? Tony arrived at 1:30 p.m. He'd canceled 3 board meetings, pushed back a conference call with Tokyo investors, and ignored 17 messages from women whose names he couldn't remember. All for coffee with a waitress who told him no. The cafe was small, local, nothing like the Michelin-starred restaurants he usually frequented. He ordered an Americano and waited. 2 p.m. passed, then 2:05. Tony's chest tightened. She wasn't coming. She'd changed her mind. He'd pushed too hard, been too intense, scared her off. The door chimed. Cora walked in, wearing jeans and a simple yellow sweater that made her skin glow. Natural, beautiful, real, and wearing her hidden recording pen as a necklace. "You came," Tony said, standing immediately. "I said I would." She slid into the seat across from him. "You're early. I didn't want you to leave." Cora's lips twitched. "Honesty. That's new. I'm trying something different. How's that working for you?" "Terrifying," Tony admitted. Cora laughed. A real laugh. And Tony felt it in his chest like a physical blow. God, Cora thought. He's actually kind of adorable when he's not being an intimidating CEO. "So," she said, leaning back, "tell me about yourself, Tony Choi. And I want the real stuff, not the press release version. What do you want to know?" "Everything. What's it like being you? Having all that money and power? Is it lonely at the top? Or is that just something poor people tell themselves to feel better?" Tony blinked at her bluntness, then laughed. Actually laughed. "You don't pull punches, do you?" "Life's too short for small talk," Cora said. "Plus, I figure if you're going to stalk me into having coffee, we might as well skip the boring parts." "I didn't stalk you. You waited in a parking garage at midnight." "Fair point." They talked for 3 hours. Cora asked questions. Real questions. About his childhood, his loneliness, his fears, his regrets. Tony answered honestly. More honestly than he'd been with anyone in years. And Cora's recording pen captured every word. But somewhere around hour 2, something shifted. Tony told her about inheriting the company at 25 after his father's sudden death. About the board members who tried to manipulate him because he was young. About learning to become ice just to survive. "When did you last do something just because you wanted to?" Cora asked. "Not for business. Not for image. Just for you." Tony stared at his coffee. "I don't remember." "That's sad," she said softly. And she meant it. "I know." Cora reached across the table, fingers stopping just short of touching his. "What do you want, Tony?" He looked up, eyes raw with honesty. "Right now, you, sitting here talking to someone who sees me, not my bank account." Cora's breath caught, because she was seeing him, the real him, vulnerable, lonely, human, and she was lying to him with every breath. "I do see you," Cora said quietly. "That's why I'm scared." "Of what?" "Of how easy this feels." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Of how much I want to trust you, and how much I'm betraying you." She didn't add. Tony's hand closed the distance, fingers intertwining with hers. "Trust me," he said. Cora's heart cracked, because she couldn't. Not when she was using him for a story. Not when every word he spoke was being recorded. Not when she was going to destroy his reputation for her career. But she smiled anyway. "One more." "One more what?" "One more date. Somewhere you choose. Show me who Tony Choi really is when the cameras aren't watching." Tony's heart threatened to break through his chest. "Tomorrow night. I'll pick you up at 7. No driver," Cora warned. "No security. No spectacle. Just me," Tony promised. And for the first time in her career, Cora wondered if she was in over her head. Tony showed up in a regular car, well, regular for a billionaire, a modest Mercedes, wearing jeans and a leather jacket. Cora stared. "You look normal." "Disappointed." "Surprised. I was expecting a helicopter or something ridiculous." Tony grinned. "I can arrange a helicopter if you want." "Please don't. I get motion sickness and I will vomit on your expensive shoes." He laughed. "Get in." He drove them to Namsan Tower. Not the fancy restaurant at the top where celebrities dined. The walking trail where locals hiked at sunset. They climbed together, talking, laughing, breath fogging in the cooling air. And Cora's recording pen captured it all. So, she said as they walked, what's the worst business decision you ever made? Tony thought about it. 3 years ago, we acquired a textile factory. I didn't visit it personally, just signed off on the paperwork. Found out later the working conditions were horrible. 12-hour shifts, no breaks, wages barely above minimum. Cora's journalist instincts perked up. What did you do? Fired the management team, renovated the facility, raised wages by 30%. But it shouldn't have happened in the first place. I should have been paying attention. Why weren't you? Tony's jaw tightened. Because I was too focused on profit margins and shareholder value. I forgot there were real people affected by my decisions. Cora's chest tightened. That's not what I expected him to say. Does that happen often? She asked quietly. Forgetting about the people? Tony stopped walking, turning to face her. More than I'd like to admit. That's why I'm trying to change things. My board hates it. They think I'm too soft, too idealistic. Are you? Maybe, Tony admitted. But I'd rather be idealistic and kind than successful and cruel. Cora stared at him. This wasn't the story she'd expected to find. She'd come here expecting to expose a heartless billionaire who exploited workers. Instead, she was finding a man who was genuinely trying to do better. Shit, she thought. This is complicated. At the top, Seoul sprawled below them. A sea of lights. It's beautiful, Cora breathed. Tony watched her, not the view. Yes, it is. She caught him staring. Smooth. I'm not trying to be smooth. I'm trying to be honest. Cora turned to face him fully. The wind caught her locks, golden hour light painting her skin bronze. Ask me, she said quietly. Ask you what? What you've been wanting to ask since the moment you met me. Tony stepped closer, close enough to feel her warmth. Why did you say yes? To coffee? To tonight? When you could have anyone? Cora smiled sadly. That's your question? Not mine. Then what's yours? Why me? Her voice cracked slightly. You have models throwing themselves at you. Heiresses, actresses, women who fit your world. Why chase the waitress? Tony's hand rose slowly, cupping her face with careful reverence. Because they see what I have, he whispered. You see who I am. Cora's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. I see who you are, she thought, and I'm lying about who I am. You don't know who I am, she argued weakly. Then let me learn. His thumb brushed her cheek. Let me earn you. Not buy you. Not charm you. Earn you. Cora's walls crumbled. She kissed him. Not for the story. Not for the article. Not for her career. Just because she wanted to. Deep. Desperate. Real. When they finally broke apart, foreheads pressed together, breathing hard, Cora whispered, This is insane. I know. Tony murmured against her lips. We barely know each other. I know. Everyone will have an opinion. I don't care, Tony said fiercely. Let them talk. Let them judge. I want you, Cora. Only you. Cora's heart shattered, because she was falling for him. Really falling. And she was going to destroy him. For 2 weeks, they existed in a bubble. Secret dates. Stolen kisses. Late-night phone calls that lasted until dawn. Tony learned that Cora sang off-key in the shower, cried at animal rescue videos, and had a laugh that made his chest ache. Cora learned that Tony was terrified of thunderstorms, donated anonymously to dozens of charities, and looked at her like she was the only thing keeping him alive. They were falling. Fast. Hard. Inevitable. And Cora was dying inside. Every date, every conversation, every tender moment was recorded, documented, stored for her article. Her editor kept texting. How's the story coming? Need it by next week. This is going to be huge. Cora stared at her laptop one night at the half-written exposé. Behind the Choi Empire smile, labor violations, corporate greed, and the CEO who doesn't care. Except, he did care. She'd seen it. The way he talked about his employees. The reforms he was trying to push through. The guilt he carried about past mistakes. The story she was writing was technically true. Choi Empire did have labor violations. The board was corrupt. But Tony was trying to fix it. And her article would destroy him anyway. Her phone rang. Tony. Hey beautiful, he said, voice warm. What are you doing? Just working on something. Want company? I can bring food. Your favorite, that Thai place you love. Cora's eyes burned with unshed tears. That sounds perfect. I'll be there in 20. He showed up with enough food for 4 people, a bouquet of sunflowers, because you said roses are overrated, and a smile that made her heart crack wider. They ate on her floor, talking about nothing and everything. I told my mother about you, Tony said suddenly. Cora froze. You what? She wants to meet you. Threw a fit when I refused to tell her your name, but I figure you're not ready for that level of chaos yet. Tony, I know it's fast, he interrupted gently, but I'm serious about you, Cora. About us. I want you in my life. Really in it. Cora's chest tightened. What if I'm not who you think I am? Tony set down his food, turning to face her fully. What do you mean? What if I had secrets? Things about me you didn't know. Everyone has secrets, Tony said simply. I don't care about your past, Cora. I care about who you are now. But what if those secrets hurt you? Tony's expression grew serious. He reached out, taking her hands. Are you in danger? Is someone threatening you? No, nothing like that. Then whatever it is, we'll figure it out together. His eyes held hers steadily. I'm not going anywhere, Cora. You're stuck with me. Cora felt tears spill over. I don't deserve you. Hey! Tony wiped her tears gently. Where is this coming from? From the fact that I'm a liar, she thought. From the fact that I'm using you. From the fact that I'm going to break your heart. Just feeling emotional, she lied. Ignore me. Tony pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. Never. That night, after he left, Cora sat at her laptop and did something she'd never done in her career. She deleted the article. All of it. Then she called her editor. I can't do the story, she said. Silence. Then, excuse me. I can't publish it. It's not the truth. The hell it's not. Her editor exploded. We have recordings, evidence, testimonies. This is the story of the year, Bennett. The evidence shows board corruption. Not Tony's, Cora argued. He's trying to fix things. The article would destroy him for crimes he didn't commit. He's the CEO. He's responsible. That's not fair. Fair. Her editor laughed harshly. Since when do you care about fair? You're a journalist, Bennett. We report truth, not protect people's feelings. This isn't about feelings. It's about that man, isn't it? Her editor's voice turned cold. You got too close. You fell for your subject. Cora's silence was answer enough. Jesus Christ, her editor spat. You're sleeping with him. That's not. I don't care if you're screwing him or not. You have a contract. You deliver the story by next week or you're fired. And I'll make sure no paper in this country hires you again. The line went dead. Cora sat there, phone in hand, world crumbling around her. Her career or Tony, the truth or love, and she had 1 week to decide. Then everything exploded. Tony was in a board meeting when his assistant burst in, face pale. Sir, you need to see this. She handed him a tablet. Photos of him and Cora at the convenience store, kissing in the park, holding hands, leaked to every major news outlet. Choi Empire CEO dating hotel waitress? Tony Choi's secret American girlfriend exposed. From billionaires to bartenders, Tony's shocking downgrade. Tony's blood ran cold. Who leaked these? His assistant hesitated. We're investigating, but there's more. She pulled up another article. Breaking. Choi Empire labor investigation underway. Insider source reveals years of abuse. Tony's world tilted. Someone had leaked information about the labor violations. Details only an insider would know. His board erupted. This is a disaster. Your relationship is destroying our reputation. You need to end this now. Tony stood slowly, rage replacing shock. Get out. Tony. Get out. He roared. All of you. Now. They fled. Tony stood alone in the conference room, mind racing. The photos, the article, the timing, couldn't be coincidence. Someone was targeting him. He called Cora immediately. No answer. He tried again. Straight to voicemail. Panic clawed at his chest. Finally, a text from her, "We need to talk. Meet me at your office. 1 hour. Tony's stomach dropped. Cora stood outside Tony's office building, heart hammering. She'd spent the last hour rehearsing what to say, how to explain, how to make him understand. But there were no words that would make this okay. She took the elevator up, each floor feeling like a countdown to the end of everything. Tony's assistant let her in immediately, face sympathetic. Tony stood by the window, back to her, shoulders rigid. "Tony," Cora began. "Is it true?" He interrupted, voice flat. "The labor violations article. Did you write it?" Cora's heart stopped. "How did you?" "Answer the question." "I didn't publish it," Cora said quickly. "My editor leaked it without my permission." Tony turned around. His face was blank, carefully blank. "But you wrote it." "Yes," Cora whispered. "You've been investigating me this whole time. Your company. Not you specifically." "Don't," Tony said sharply. "Don't split hairs. You lied to me. About who you are. About why you were there. About everything." "I'm a journalist," Cora said, voice shaking. "Investigative reporter for the Seoul Tribune. I was working undercover." "I know who you are," Tony interrupted coldly. "My security team figured it out an hour ago." Cora Bennett, 27, graduated from Columbia School of Journalism, known for aggressive investigative pieces on corporate corruption. He laughed bitterly. "I was so fucking stupid. The questions, the interest in my business practices, the way you pushed me to talk about the company. You were gathering evidence." "At first, yes," Cora admitted. "But Tony, I swear, what happened between us was real." "Was any of it real?" Tony demanded. "The coffee? The dates? His voice broke. "The kisses? Was any of it real, or was I just a story to you?" "It was real," Cora shouted. "All of it. I fell in love with you." "You recorded me," Tony said quietly. "Didn't you?" Cora's silence was answer enough. "The coffee date," Tony continued, voice dead. "The hike. All those late-night calls where I told you everything about my father, my fears, my mistakes. You recorded all of it." "Yes," Cora whispered. "But I deleted everything. I refused to publish the story. I chose you over my career. After you'd already betrayed me," Tony said. "After you'd already lied. After you'd already used me. I fell in love with you," Cora cried. "That wasn't part of the plan. I was supposed to get the story and leave, but then I met you. The real you. And everything changed." "When?" Tony demanded. "When did it change? Before or after you recorded me talking about my dead father? Before or after you documented every vulnerable moment I've ever had?" Cora sobbed. "I'm sorry. Did you sleep with me for the story?" His voice was quiet, dangerous. "No," Cora recoiled. "God, no. Tony, we never. Right? Because we were waiting." His laugh was bitter. "How convenient. You could maintain some moral high ground while still manipulating me." "I wasn't manipulating you. You were a lie," Tony shouted. "Everything about you was a lie. Your job, your reasons for being there, probably even your name." "My name is real," Cora said quietly. "And my feelings are real. I love you, Tony. I love you so much I destroyed my career to protect you." Tony froze. "What?" "I refused to publish the story," Cora said, voice breaking. "I told my editor I wouldn't do it. She threatened to fire me, to blacklist me, to ruin me. She leaked the information anyway. And I still didn't regret protecting you." "After you'd already gathered the information," Tony said coldly. "After you'd already recorded me. After you'd already decided my entire company was corrupt based on your investigation." "Your board is corrupt," Cora argued. "The labor violations are real, Tony. Workers are being exploited." "I know," Tony roared. "I've been trying to fix it for 6 months. I fired managers, raised wages, implemented reforms. But you didn't include any of that in your article, did you? You just painted me as another heartless billionaire." "That's not true," Cora protested. "I found evidence that you were trying to change things. That's why I couldn't publish it." "But your editor did," Tony interrupted. "And now my company is under investigation." My investors are pulling out. My reputation is destroyed. All because you decided to play investigative journalist with my life. I'm sorry, Cora whispered. Tony, I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. Get out. Cora's heart stopped. What? Get out of my office, Tony said, voice empty. Get out of my life. We're done. Tony, please. There is no us, Cora. There never was. Just a journalist and her source. A liar and her mark. That's not fair. Fair. Tony's control finally snapped. You want to talk about fair? You used me. You lied to me. You made me fall in love with someone who doesn't even exist. And now you want me to forgive you because you feel guilty. I don't want forgiveness, Cora said desperately. I want a chance to make this right. You can't make this right, Tony said flatly. The damage is done. My company is under investigation. My personal life is tabloid fodder. My trust is shattered. He walked to his desk, pulled out a business card, and handed it to her. My lawyer's number. If you're called to testify in any investigation, contact him. Otherwise, lose my number. Delete my contact. Forget I exist. Cora stared at the card, tears streaming down her face. I love you. No, Tony said quietly. You love the story, the drama, the challenge, but you never loved me, because you never knew me. You only knew the version of me you created for your article. That's not true. It doesn't matter anymore, Tony interrupted. True or not, real or not, it's over. He turned away, looking out the window at soul sprawling below. Goodbye, Cora. Cora stood there for one more moment, memorizing the line of his shoulders, the way the light caught his hair, the man she destroyed. Then she turned and walked away, and Tony stood alone, surrounded by glass and steel and success, feeling more broken than he'd ever been. 1 week later, Cora hadn't eaten in 3 days, hadn't slept properly in a week. Her editor had fired her anyway. You're too compromised. Can't trust you to be objective anymore. The Seoul Tribune published a correction, distancing themselves from the leaked article. Cora's career was over. But that wasn't what kept her awake at night. It was Tony's face, the betrayal in his eyes, the way his voice had gone empty. She'd destroyed the best thing that had ever happened to her. And she deserved it. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Hello, Miss Bennett. An unfamiliar voice. This is Kim Miho, Mr. Choi's executive assistant. Cora's heart stopped. Is he okay? He's managing, Miho said carefully. But that's not why I'm calling. Mr. Choi is holding a press conference tomorrow at 10 a.m. Given your involvement in this situation, I thought you should know. Why are you telling me this? Because despite everything, I think you should be there, Miho said quietly. Not for him. For you. The line went dead. The room was packed. Reporters, cameras, flashing lights. Cora stood in the back, hood up, trying to be invisible. Tony walked to the podium, looking like the Ice King had returned. Cold, untouchable, in control. My name is Tony Choi, he began, voice steady. And I'm here to address the recent allegations against Choi Empire. Silence fell. The labor violations reported are real, Tony stated clearly. Choi Empire did have facilities with substandard working conditions, wages below industry standard, and inadequate worker protections. Gasps rippled through the crowd. What is false? Tony continued, voice sharpening. Is the implication that I knew about these violations, approved them, or benefited from them knowingly? He nodded to his legal team, who began distributing documents. What you're receiving now is evidence that 3 members of my board, Park Jin-woo, Lee Sung-min, and Choi Min-ji, systematically hid compliance reports from executive review. They falsified audit documents. They actively prevented information from reaching me. Murmurs filled the room. When I discovered these violations 6 months ago, I immediately implemented reforms. I fired corrupt management. I raised wages across all facilities by an average of 35%. I hired independent auditors. Tony's voice was ice. The article published last week implied I was complicit, that I valued profit over people, that I am the villain in this story. He paused, letting the words sink in. I am not the villain, but I am responsible. The room went silent. As CEO, every failure of my company is ultimately my failure, Tony continued. I should have implemented better oversight. I should have visited facilities personally. I should have made it impossible for this corruption to exist. His jaw tightened. So yes, I am accountable, but I am not the heartless billionaire portrayed in that article. And I will not let false narratives destroy what I've spent 6 months building. Mr. Choi, a reporter shouted. What about your relationship with the journalist who broke the story? Tony's expression didn't change. Miss Bennett's personal conduct is her concern, not mine. I'm here to discuss Choi Empire's business practices. But did you have a romantic relationship with her? My personal life is not up for discussion. She recorded you without permission. And I'm not pressing charges, Tony interrupted coldly. Miss Bennett obtained information through questionable means, but the information itself is largely accurate. The labor violations existed. The board corruption existed. So you're defending her? I'm defending facts, Tony corrected sharply. There's a difference. Miss Bennett made serious ethical violations as a journalist. She's facing consequences for those choices. But that doesn't make the underlying issues at my company disappear. He leaned forward, voice dropping dangerously low. What I will not tolerate is my name being dragged through the mud for crimes I actively fought against. What I will not accept is being portrayed as someone who doesn't care when I've spent 6 months implementing reforms. What reforms specifically? Tony listed them. Every single one. Wage increases, oversight committees, anonymous reporting systems, third-party audits, worker safety improvements, cold facts, hard numbers, receipts, no emotion, no mention of Cora beyond the necessary facts, just the Ice King protecting his empire. The 3 board members responsible have been terminated and are facing criminal charges, Tony concluded. I've personally ensured every affected worker receives back pay and compensation. Is this about saving your reputation or actually caring about workers? Tony's smile was razor-sharp. Does it matter? The workers get paid either way. Brutal honesty. No pretty speeches. Just reality. One final statement, Tony said. I'm implementing a new company-wide policy. Every Choi Empire executive, including myself, will spend 1 week per quarter working frontline positions. We will experience the conditions our workers face. We will understand their challenges. He looked directly into the cameras. You can question my motives. You can doubt my sincerity. But you cannot question my commitment to making Choi Empire better. Watch me. Hold me accountable. And judge me by my actions, not by headlines. He stepped away from the podium. Mr. Choi, one more question. Tony turned back. Do you have anything to say to Cora Bennett? The room went silent. Tony's eyes scanned the crowd, found her in the back, their gazes locked. For 3 seconds, something flickered across his face. Pain, longing, anger. Then it was gone. No comment, he said flatly, and walked out. Cora stood frozen as reporters rushed past her, chasing Tony for follow-up questions. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Grand Ballroom. Lumiere Hotel. Tomorrow 2 p.m. Come alone. Miho. She stared at the message. Tomorrow was the anniversary of the night they met. What the hell was happening? Lumiere Hotel. The next day, Cora walked into the ballroom. Empty. Except for Tony, standing by the windows where she'd first seen him. He turned as she entered. You came, he said quietly. You asked me to. Miho asked you to, Tony corrected. I wasn't sure you'd show. Why did you want to see me? Cora asked, maintaining distance between them. Tony was quiet for a long moment. I had my legal team investigate the leak, he finally said. The photos, the article, all of it. Cora's stomach dropped. Tony, your editor orchestrated everything, he continued. Hired paparazzi to follow us. Leaked the photos to pressure you into finishing the story. When you refused, she published it anyway using your research. I know, Cora whispered. I tried to stop her. I know you did, Tony interrupted gently. I found the email trail, your resignation letter, the recordings you deleted. All of it. Cora's eyes filled with tears. Then why? Because you still lied, Tony said quietly. You still recorded me. You still went undercover to investigate me. Those things are true, Cora. They happened. I know. But, Tony continued, stepping closer, I also found something else. He pulled out a folder, handed it to her. Cora opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a full article, written by her, unpublished. The man behind Choi Empire. A CEO's fight for reform. It was the article she'd started writing after deleting the exposé. The one highlighting Tony's reforms. His genuine efforts to fix the company. His humanity. The one she'd never finished because everything had exploded. How did you? Cloud backup, Tony said simply. My IT team is very thorough when investigating security breaches. He stepped closer. Close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes. The pain. The conflict. You deleted the exposé, he said quietly. Started writing this instead. Destroyed your career to protect me. And I threw you out of my office. You had every right. I was hurt, Tony interrupted, and angry, and betrayed. And I lashed out. Tony, you don't have to apologize. I'm not apologizing for being hurt, he clarified. You earned that. But I am saying, I understand now. The position you were in. The choices you made. Cora's hands shook. Where does that leave us? Tony was quiet for a long time. I don't know, he admitted. I'm still hurt. Still processing. Still not sure if I can trust you again. That's fair. But, Tony continued, voice softening, I also can't stop thinking about you. Can't stop missing you. Can't stop wondering if we threw away something real because the beginning was built on lies. Cora's breath caught. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm not ready to forgive you yet, Tony said honestly. But I'm also not ready to walk away permanently. He reached out, fingers barely brushing hers. I'm saying, maybe we start over. Really start over. No lies. No hidden agendas. Just two people trying to figure out if there's something worth saving. Cora looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. I don't deserve a second chance. Probably not, Tony agreed. But I don't deserve to spend the rest of my life wondering what if. What would starting over even look like? Coffee, Tony said simply. Like we did the first time. Except this time you tell me the truth about who you are. And I tell you the truth about what I need. Which is time, Tony said quietly. Honesty, patience, and a promise that you'll never lie to me again. I can do that, Cora whispered. All of it. Then let's try, Tony said. Slowly, carefully, with no guarantees and no expectations beyond honesty. He stepped back, creating space between them. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., the cafe where we had our first date. We start over. As strangers who want to know each other. Cora nodded, not trusting her voice. Tony turned to leave. Tony, he stopped. Thank you, Cora said quietly, for giving me a chance I don't deserve. Tony looked back, something sad and hopeful warring in his expression. We'll see if I regret it, he said softly, and left. 6 months later, they took it slow. Coffee dates where Cora told him everything. Her childhood, her career, her motivations, her regrets. Tony listened, asked questions, shared his own truths. Some days were good, easy, felt like healing. Some days were hard. Old wounds reopened. Trust wavered. But they kept showing up. Kept choosing honesty over comfort. Kept building something new from the ruins of what was. Cora found work with a nonprofit investigating corporate accountability. Honest work. Meaningful work. Tony continued his reforms. Changed Choi Empire's culture one policy at a time. They went to therapy, both individual and couples. Learned to communicate, to forgive without forgetting, to rebuild without erasing. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was messy, complicated, real, but it was theirs. One Saturday morning, 6 months after their coffee shop restart, Tony picked Cora up early. Where are we going? She asked. You'll see. He drove them to Namsan Tower, to their spot, where everything had started to fall apart and come together. At the top, Seoul sprawled below them, golden in the morning light. Tony turned to face her. 6 months ago, he began. I asked you to start over, to give us a real chance. Cora's heart began to pound. You've shown up every single day since then, Tony continued. Even when it was hard. Even when I pushed you away. Even when you had every reason to leave. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small box. I'm not the same man who fell for you at that ballroom, Tony said quietly. I'm more careful now, more cautious, more aware of how easily trust can break. He opened the box. The ring. Simple, beautiful, real. But I'm also more certain, he continued, more sure of what I want, more convinced that love worth having is love you fight for. He dropped to one knee. Cora Bennett, you broke my heart, and then you helped me rebuild it stronger. You lied to me, and then you showed me what real honesty looks like. You destroyed everything we had, and then you proved that destroyed things can be remade into something better. His voice grew thick with emotion. I love you, the real you, flaws and regrets and complicated truths and all, and I want to spend the rest of my life choosing you. Every single day. Tears streamed down Cora's face. Will you marry me? Cora dropped to her knees in front of him, hands cupping his face. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll choose you. Yes to all of it. Tony slid the ring onto her finger, and they kissed there on the mountain. The city sprawling below them, the morning sun warm on their skin. No cameras, no audience, no performance. Just two people who'd found their way back to each other through the hardest possible path, and chosen to keep walking it together. 1 year later, the community center opened on a rainy Tuesday in Gangnam, funded by Cora's nonprofit and supported by Choi Empire's new charitable foundation. Workers' rights advocacy, corporate accountability programs, resources for whistleblowers and journalists. Cora stood at the ribbon cutting, no longer a disgraced journalist but the founder of an organization that helped others tell truth to power, the right way. Tony stood beside her, no longer the untouchable CEO but a man who'd learned that vulnerability was strength and that real power came from accountability. Inside, people laughed, communities healed, truth and justice found a home, and outside, soul moved on because the internet always does. But for Tony and Cora, the story was just beginning. No regrets, Tony murmured, squeezing her hand. Only one, Cora said. What? That we wasted 6 months being apart when we could have been figuring this out together. Tony pulled her close. We needed those 6 months to heal separately before we could heal together. I know, Cora admitted. Doesn't mean I don't regret it. Well, Tony said, a smile tugging at his lips. You'll have the rest of your life to make it up to me. That's very demanding of you. Old habits. Cora laughed, the sound bright and free and real. They'd built something from broken pieces. Something messy and complicated and imperfect. Something that had required brutal honesty, genuine forgiveness, and the courage to start over even when it would have been easier to walk away. And they'd do it all again. Every hard conversation, every moment of doubt, every painful step toward trust. Because sometimes the best love stories don't start with a meet-cute. They start with a betrayal, and end with the choice to rebuild anyway. Together. 2 years later. Tony, I'm pregnant. Tony's coffee mug hit the floor, shattered into 100 pieces. Cora burst out laughing. That's the exact reaction I expected. We're your... Tony couldn't form words. Yeah, Cora grinned. Surprise. Tony crossed the kitchen in 2 strides, lifting her into his arms. We're having a baby. Okay, motion sickness is already a thing, so maybe don't spin me. Tony set her down gently, hands immediately going to her still flat stomach. Hi baby, your mom is the most brilliant, infuriating, honest woman alive. And your dad, his voice cracked. Your dad is going to love you so much. Cora's eyes welled up. Damn hormones. I love you, Tony whispered, pulling her close. I love you too, Cora replied. Even though you broke another coffee mug. I'll buy 100 more. That's very billionaire of you. Old habits die hard. They stood there, wrapped in each other, thinking about the future. The challenges ahead. A biracial baby in Seoul. 2 parents from different worlds. A family built on hard truths and harder work. and neither of them would change a thing, because their story wasn't perfect. But it was real, and real was so much better. If you enjoyed the story, subscribe to the channel for more romance stories that will keep you hooked from beginning to end. Comment below where you're watching from, and tell me, would you have given Tony and Cora a second chance? See you in the next story.